Hey everyone, I hope you guys are enjoying your day, evening, early morning, wherever you are. For those of you who are night owls, thank you for tuning in and listening to my channel. It appears at this present time the Lord has me talking about a few things, and one will be children. You know, when you're talking about children, this is normally an off-limits topic to many parents. No one wants to hear anything about their child and correcting them and who are you? You don't know my kids. You don't know me. I will not say every message is for everyone, but I'm just simply here to give a message, and just know if it's not your house, then disregard. But at the same time, if you know it's you and you're taking offense and you don't want to hear it, whether you receive it or not, it does not change the fact that it's been heard or it was brought to you. And if you don't receive it, then, the Word of God says to shake the dust off our feet. But my job is not to say, well, Lord, I don't know who this is going to offend. I have to put it out there because I believe that while it may be rejected by many, there will be that few, that one, that couple, that few households that may say, you know what, this lines up with what the Lord was already speaking to me about. Or they may say, you know what, this is a step that I need to go into and ask the Lord to help me along the way. I've been talking about a lot of things with the youth and children. And one of the things that's come in my spirit to talk with you about the baby of the family, You must be very careful that the baby of the family do not become the omen, do not become the bad egg of the family. The bad egg that will continue to be protected and justified, aided and abetted in their behavior. I'm going to tell you how this happens. Well, what begins to happen is from a young age, that child is being given a message of they're not to be held responsible or accountable for any actions. Granted, children are very tiny and small, and they're growing, and they're just constantly grown. You're not going to correct a baby, okay? And at some point they get older and they're toddlers and they're just 1 year old. You still have to be gentle and give a lot of grace to this child. Truly, throughout a child's life, you should be giving them grace. But there comes a time in their life where they have to learn no, they have to learn please, thank you, excuse me. And even as they get older, they still have to learn their consequences for your actions. Now, as parents, you don't want to be just killing your children and beating them to death and drawing blood and causing edema, which is swelling and contusions on your children. This is child abuse, and you need to go to jail, period. You cannot be abusing your children, fighting, beating, scratching, biting, trying to break their fingers. That is absolute evil. That is not discipline. That is wickedness, and it is an indication that you are out of control. Now, moving right along, so there's the level of disciplines, and there needs to be a child has to learn that there's certain things you cannot do. Now, what is happening, guys? And while we have a world full of what people call narcissist parents, narcissist partners, narcissist co-workers, and siblings, is because, etc., pastors, leaders, prophets, is because there was something that was not done from a young age. One or two things. Either that child was treated very badly, very poorly, and they grew up with that, and then some point they went completely left. They came up with survival skills, and that means kill or be killed, all right? And then you have this other group that I'm going to talk about today, that is the spoiled ones. They're the baby of the family, and they get away with everything. You have to realize, before your child goes out into the world, they are meeting the first people that they're going to encounter, and the ones that they really should have the best manners with, and that's going to be their own family, their own siblings. If you treat your siblings like garbage and you have no respect for them, you're not going to have any you're not going to be better to other people. What these children will learn to do is how to put on a different face, a different mask when they're in different environments. If this is a person that benefits me, if this is the person that pays my, is my boss, or the person that's going to help me, they're going to put on that friendly face, okay? But inside, they go home and they switch faces. They'll switch faces with their partner, their boyfriend, their girlfriend. They'll switch faces with their husband, their wife. They'll switch faces with their children. That is why there's so many people, children and people who are being abused by someone who everyone loves in the church, someone that everyone loves in the community. Well, they flip that face in the community, and then they get home and the children and the family see someone different. That's why when people are like, I wish this was my mom, or I wish this was my dad, that child is like, please take them and take them all the way up into the hills of Nepal, for all I care, because this person is different. But again, I said that this persona results from two things: horrible abuse, and the person was not healed. They decided to heal themselves. They heal, but they didn't. And so they become very hurtful and wicked to other people. And then you have another group. They're the baby of the family. They were pampered. They were not held accountable for anything. It was always someone else's fault. And so they grow into that. Parents may think there's nothing wrong with that. And so you begin to train that child from a young age that they can just say and do whatever they want to do to their siblings, to other children, to their older siblings, and it's okay. The older siblings should not correct them. So that younger child could do whatever they want to do. That child, your older sibling your older child is eating something, and the child could just come and, we're not talking about just a little baby anymore. We're talking about they're old enough to know better. They're about 8 or 9 or 10 years old, and they could just come up and just grab whatever they want to grab off of their sibling's plate. And it's okay, and you're not teaching them that. And if the sibling wants to say no, you're telling the sibling, give it back to them. This is a bad move. Why? Because that child is developing, that child is a soul. You are training a person that's going to be someone's student, that's going to be someone's maybe husband or wife, that's going to be someone's boss at some point. This is going to be a person who may be working in medicine one day, or dealing with in pharmaceuticals. They have to have an integrity. They have to take responsibilities. They have to know that they can't always get their own way. So if you're teaching them these behaviors from a young age, they're going to grow into the soul. You're teaching them the wrong way of being, having an entitled mindset by first lording them over their older siblings, teaching them that they don't have to have respect for the elder, or teaching them who should get respect and who should not. You should respect me because I'm the mom or I'm the dad, but you don't have to respect him or her or them. But you need to listen to the teacher, but only if they're not upsetting you. You need to respect your grandma, but you don't have to respect these groups of people, these kids over here. You're teaching your child how to be a hypocrite. That's what it is. You're teaching them how to put in many faces and still maintain that character where they think they're better and they don't have to listen and they have an entitled spirit. And guys, this is a very, very dangerous thing, because again, you're looking at your child, but you have to realize at some point that body that you view as a child is going to go back to the earth, and they're going to rise up as a soul. So what you're truly doing is you're feeding the soul of that child, teaching them how to be a certain way. And at some point they get older and they begin to make their own choices and decisions, which is going to perpetuate from the selfish behaviors that you instill with them, because they are the baby of the family. Being that there's plenty of babies of the family that is ruining marriages, plenty of babies in the family that are just feeling that they can stick their hands in somebody else's marital pies. There is a baby in the family that is misleading a congregation. There's a baby in the family that think that age doesn't matter. I don't care that you're older, or I'm older than you, or you're on the age. I want what I want. And so there's plenty of babies in the family that are running sex trafficking circles and are doing things and changing the figures on paperwork and doing all sorts of wrong and worse because they are not taught about accountability. You cannot teach these skills to a child when they get older. If they're already being told that they don't have to say thank you and they don't have to consider someone else, that you should not just put your hands in somebody else's plate and take what you want. You should not just go in and break your brothers and sisters' toys and you can cry because they're upset, and then the parent now is going to turn around and correct the older child and tell them you shouldn't have had it out where they can get it, rather than teaching the child this is wrong and that is not correct. You may need a timeout, whatever it may be. However, that child of that age needs to be learning constantly about considerations for others. You know, when a child is born, from the moment they're born, there are millions and millions and millions of what they will call synaptic connections. It's all the circuits and things of the brains that's just coming together. That's coming together constantly, just millions a day. And something that I read, how a child's reality and how they are formed and how they will be, okay? All the information and all that they're taking in is given to all these neural circuits in their brains. And the thing that happens is that whatever that child is going to experience, whatever they experience and whatever they see and whatever they're being taught, that's being activated, and that's going to be strengthened, and that's going to be the thing that they're going to think is okay, and anything else that they're not being taught is going to be weakened. So if as the child is learning, that child could easily learn about manners and please and thank you from the time they're very young. Daily, from the time a baby is born, millions and millions and millions of all these connections are being made in the brain. So if a child is raised in an abusive relationship and an abusive household, normally they're going to come out very hard because that part of them that would have been loving and kind was neglected. So that part, they did not experience love. They did not experience nurturing. They did not experience gentleness. So that part of the brain will be destroyed. But what will be strengthened is what they know as aggression and abuse. So when you are raising a child and you're teaching that child to have an entitled mindset and to be disrespectful and to be selective in who will get respect. Oh, respect me because I'm your mom. Respect me because I'm your dad. But you don't have to even think about your older brother. You don't have to think about this one. But when you go to the church, I need you to behave. That's why when you see children that are misbehaving and saying things and making racist remarks and stuff like that, that child is very open. They think it's normal. So now they get out there and the parents are like, I can't believe they're acting up. Why? They do this all the time. Now they're shaming the parent. I remember a long time ago when I was stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, I was inside a shopette. Basically is what would be an equivalent to what you would call like a 7-Eleven. It's a store by the gas station usually, and you just go in there to pay for your gas and get something, small drink or whatever. It's not a place that you would shop, right? Because everything at a 7-Eleven is always higher, and it's somewhat the same with a shopette. So I go in and I'm waiting in line, and there's this woman and there's this little boy, a white lady, and she had a son. He kept staring at me. Now this is Fort Benning, Georgia. This is a military post. Seeing a black person is not a new thing. It's a mix of people at Fort Benning. Well, the little boy kept staring at me and staring at me and staring at me to the point I'm just like, I could feel him staring at me. And the little boy said, Mama, is that a nigger? And the mom, it's like a pin drop because the lady that was doing the register was black and I was black and a few black people behind the line. And, there's a mix of everybody, black and white. And it's almost like you heard a pin drop. And the woman is like, oh my God, oh no. But, I just looked at her, and I don't know if I believe I said, no, he's saying this is what he's taught. And I just walked out. I believe I did say that. Or I just kind of shook my head and laughed and walked out. But knowing me, I said something, okay? But this is what he is taught. That is his reality. He doesn't know anything about being racist. He doesn't know anything about he does not know that saying the word nigger, which I don't like to use, but I'm standing for here. He doesn't know saying that word or any other term that will be considered derogatory or racist. All right. That's even what I learned recently, looking at something where they were talking about, when we say Native American Indians, that was not a term that Native Americans just go by the term Native American. But Indians is a term that was given to them from the early settlers that came to America and saw them and saw that they were brown, their skin. So they just call them Indians as the Indians that they know from Asia. Okay? That's alleged history. Okay? So it's not a derogatory term per se, but that's not how they will consider one another. Just like sometimes we have to be careful when we say Latino and blah, 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 to just do a broad brush of everybody else. But anywho, getting back to the point, that little boy doesn't know anything about racism and hatred. He just knows this is what I hear and this is what I'm taught. He was small. So what happens is when that child begins to misbehave and do all these things and shock the parents, and because the parent knows how to switch faces up, the child is still innocent. Now the child doesn't know how to switch faces yet and become, act shocked, act like the shocked hypocrite. What? How could you say that? How could you say that to that genuine chocolate faced woman? You know what I mean? Come on. So we have to be careful as parents. Those of you that have young children, you have to realize that is a soul. It does not mean that that you're holding them to the same standard. You have to give your child grace for them to grow. You have to give them grace in their mistakes. But you should not be partial in what you give for your older child, all of them, and the younger one. Some may need more discipline than the other because of their behaviors or what they're doing. But when you allow that young child to behave that way, you are setting up that child to have a life where they do not listen to other people. They will do very selfish and unkind things. And as long as those things they're given excuses for it, as long as they witness and they see that part of their brain as they're growing older is being strengthened to know, I broke this, but my older brother gets blamed for it. I took this, but my older sister is taking the hit for it. I didn't do anything. I'm the baby. You shouldn't have left your stuff out, or I wouldn't have broke it. You should give me. I can put my hand in your food and take what I want. You are raising that child to become crooked in spirit, and they'll become wayward because they're taught that from a young age. And what gets strengthened, what part of their brain gets strengthened? The part that blames everyone. I'm entitled. It's not my fault. It's always your fault. I can do things to you. And so now the child learns to become very mischievous, and they begin to do and provoke things. They know they can they can do evil things. They're going to run and tell their mom and use the mom as a shield to get away with it. So now they're learning how to manipulate. And so they'll do that when they get older. They will learn how not to take responsibility for anything, play other people against one another to get what they want or to get out of a situation. Don't let the baby of the family become the nightmare of the family. As cute as they are, as deep those dimples are, you teach them how to be wicked and evil and crooked and defiant. And they're going to become problematic. That part of their brain will know nothing but entitlement and how to get over and how to be inconsiderate. And the part of the brain that would have learned about manners and consideration is weakened. So you have allowed the child to be doing this from, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. At what point do you think that you can begin to teach them about manners and consideration? They, at that point in their formation stages in their life, this has become ingrained in them. So you trying to teach them something else will be alien to them, just as it will be a child that has grown up and is grown up to learn manners and consideration. It is alien to them to be rude and disrespectful and to think to curse someone out. That will be very uncomfortable for that child because that is not how they were raised. And guys, sometimes that's how you're seeing a lot of young people, small kids. You look at them and they just got the stain on their face. They look old. Some of them look like they've been here before. Some of them look like they have a job and has already built 4 houses somewhere. Because they're old. Disobedience. If you look at a child that misbehaves, I'm trying to tell you, small ones. If you look at a child that is rude and a misbehaving child, they all have this little, I call it a stain. I don't know how to explain it. But they have this tinge on their face. Rude has a look. You can tell a child that's rude. Their eyes look they'll look you straight in your face and have a scowl and just a look on their face because it's a spiritual thing. And so, as I said, some children, they've experienced some horrible things, abuse. And I've done videos on that before, but this is not where the Lord is taking me today. It's the entitled spirit that is being ingrained in children. You must teach your child to respect their siblings. At the same time, the sibling knows you can't just be mistreating your little brother or a little sister. You can't do that. Just like you should not be teaching in some houses it's a patriarchal family, right? So the boys and the men mistreats the girls. This is not God's way. You can't say you're Christian and you're doing that. Because if you look and read through the Word of God page by page, you're going to see, oh no, the Lord is not about abusing women and them being mistreated. This is not his way. Read your Bible very carefully. However, let me stick to what this message is about. That baby of the family is still a human being. And most importantly, they're a soul. You cannot just begin to teach them to be nice and considerate later on. In these formative years, it is very important that you're instilling in them good manners, consideration to other people. Those of you are Christians and believers, pray over your children. It's amazing how sometimes many parents, they don't have the patience to hear out their older child, but you'll take the time to listen to what the younger child is telling you has happened. So you just go along with what that child has said, and then you don't want to listen to the older child going, Mom, no, that's not what happened. Oh, be quiet, you should, because No. Sometimes in your life, in your everyday life, you were disrespected by somebody. Somebody was rude to you. You know what? That was somebody's baby of the family. They don't feel they need to respect you. They don't feel they need to talk to you right. They don't feel like they need to give you customer service. They don't think they need to consider you in line. Because they were raised as the baby of the family. I don't need to hear what you got to say. So what do you teach your child? What's the message you give to that older child? And sometimes you're wondering why that child is just withdrawn from you. Because they see the hypocrisy. How do you hold me to a standard because of my age? But then this child is going to be my age. And by the time they get to be my age, they're still continuing to do things that's not correct. In society, they're not looking at how old the child is for the most part. Once you become an adult, they're not going, this person was younger than the neighbor when he broke his window. No, you're going to be held accountable for what you've done. When they're in school, there's no, oh, who's the youngest in the classroom? This is the baby of the classroom, guys. Don't, anything they do, you got to ignore it. No, but your child does not know how to switch gears and go to school, and now they're going to act right. They're not going to know how to be considerate and to understand, and now they're starting to tell you, the teachers bother me. Why? Does the teacher bother them or hold them to a standard that they're not used to at home? And so sometimes they begin to bring you shame, and now you're trying to, oh, you need to learn. But no, when they were young, you thought that their rudeness was only going to be directed to their siblings. And now the siblings has moved away from them, gotten away from them, and now you're left with what you've created. Or this baby of the family continues to do certain things. If they have a relationship with their siblings, that is toxic and wrong. And now they're doing things that's upsetting their brothers and sisters, their brothers and sisters' partners, the brothers and sisters' children, their children against their children. They're raising up their their fields of defiance. This is what that baby of the family syndrome is going to do. You have to remember that oftentimes as parents, you can focus on them right now, but you're not realizing that you're raising a soul, and what you allow or you don't allow is going to have effect on other people. There's society in the world that's raising other people's children because parents didn't do what they needed to do. So the parents do not discipline their children, and they send the child all day, 8 hours a day into school, and everybody else is trying to keep their child quiet. Everybody else is dealing with everyone else's children, is dealing with their child and what they've done because, oh, this was the baby of the family. But I wonder what will happen if at some point laws are passed where every time the child does something, the parents get called from work or at home. What happens if laws are passed where every time a child bullies or does something constantly, that the parents are going to hold, the parents will be held responsible for it? Or charged? Do you know how quickly the discipline will kick in at the house? But what happens? Oh, it's not my problem. The parents are home doing what they're doing, or at their work, doing their job peacefully, while the child's at the schools causing unrest. This is very important. This is why it is very important that you pay attention and you pray and you ask the Lord to be in your house. It's time for parents to sit down with their children and know and listen to them. And because there's a lot of things, a lot of reasons why children are going wayward, and they're just escaping into the internet or escaping to school. And some of them, they're not at school because of COVID, and they're hating every minute of being home because they're constantly around this thing where it's always their fault. Parents, you have to be in a place to humble yourself and find out what's going on with your children and how they feel. Maybe even it's just in my heart to just maybe have it, if they don't feel comfortable verbalizing anything, they could write down what they feel on a piece of paper and just put it in a little thing, and one by one take things out, and have enough of humility not to get mad and to not get angry and demand who wrote it or argue with your child. You need to listen to them. They can tell you what they feel, but you shouldn't be like, oh no, that's not what happened, and then you're angry. Well, they're going to shut down. It is time to change these things, especially those you said that you're believers in Christ. Don't you know you're going to stand before the Lord for the souls that are in your house? The way you raise that baby of the family, the things that you taught that child, the path that you set them on, that now they have lit the trail all by themselves and know how to be more evil all by themselves, but you set the tone. That frustrated older sibling, that you never listen to them, but they're always being blamed for everything. All they can do is go and internalize their frustration, and this leaves them open to the powers of darkness. You don't know, parents, how many of you, your children wish you died. Your children are wishing your children wish you were dead, or your children is wishing that their siblings died, or they're sitting and imagining evil things. Some of you, you're hurting your children to the point that perhaps if your child saw that sibling, that baby, they may not even be babies really, because this is not about a baby. I mean, it's not about a small child, but once they realize the youngest child, once they come of age, if they saw them in danger or saw them somewhere and saw them in a position where they can fall off, they will not Tell them. Because you're allowing this child to become a living hell in their lives. Many of them, they want to run away. You have children who they cannot wait. They're counting down the hours to just either be able to become legal adults and just emancipated from you, or they cannot wait to get to age where they can just take off and leave and never look back. Because they're that frustrated because you're not listening. And then they're even more frustrated because you keep talking to them about God. You keep taking them to church. You keep doing all these things, but they don't see you really carrying out that type of love and that consideration for them. So they become frustrated with God because now they're entrapped with you. The Lord has called me to really bring this out because there are lots of frustrated children. And sometimes the rebellion of the things that they're getting into is because they're frustrated and they're angry. And there are also a lot of things that they know. If you're doing things in secret and you're doing things that's wrong, you're with a person that's doing things that's wrong, a lot of times the devil's going to allow your child to find out that thing that you're doing so that they can really see you being a hypocrite. And they know this thing about you, but they can't say anything to you because you're the adult and there's going to be consequences. I am not giving your children the okay to defy you. But God wants you as a parent to realize what's going on around you, because sometimes you're caught up in religion and the acts of being a Christian, but you are really not loving and caring. And there's a lot of hypocrisy and there's a lot of things that's wrong and that's not right. A child that is born, God does not look, oh, this is the baby, they get away with stuff. No, there are plenty of babies of the family that is in eternal darkness. And if you start them off wrong, you got to realize you're going to stand before God for what you've done. It's time to apologize to your children. It's time to hear what's going on. It's time to change the dynamics of how things are being done in that household. It does not mean that that older child or the older siblings are now ganging up on the younger. No, that's not right either. But you must learn to hear and to be, to give judgment or to make decisions. That's what I mean. That is based on you listening. Imagine if Solomon, when those two women came to him and one had a live baby and one had a dead baby. Imagine if he just blew them off and just like, look, I believe her and that's it. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Imagine that. And so when you as a parent, you have to, when your children come to you, you must listen to their cause. Hear what they have to say. And God will give you the decision to make a decision or a judgment, if you want to call it judgment, that's fair and that's right. And sometimes, yes, you could be very frustrated as a parent. You've been working all day or whatever, but that's the thing. Welcome to parenthood, right? Sometimes as parents, there's a thought of entitlement. I'm tired, so I can act up and I can yell and I can scream and I don't have to listen. Well, if you're the parent and you're acting like that, why would you expect your children to do any better? They're children. They haven't even been around as long as you. So this is where we need to pray and ask God to help us so that you're not doing things where you're frustrated. If you're frustrated, be okay saying, listen, I don't want to hear anything right now. I cannot hear anything right now. I want the both of you to go sit down somewhere and I'll talk to you all later. And really talk to them later. But yelling and screaming and just putting it all on the oldest, you're doing something to their spirit. Believe it or not. And then on top of that, the constant disrespect, they still have to take care of the younger one. And all of that, the younger one begins to realize, you can't do nothing to me. Okay. So what does that child get set up for? Being destructive, the youngest, being destructive in other people's lives, being selfish, being inconsiderate, trying to get away with things on the job. They become their employer's problem. They become the co-worker's problem. They become they become the problems to the in-laws or to someone that they thought they were supposed to spend the rest of their lives with. They become community's problems. The community's problems. And sometimes for some parents, they don't care what their child is doing to anybody else. That's just my baby. And as long as you and your child have a great relationship, you don't care about anything that they're doing to anybody else, and you're going to cover for them anyway. Well, you can't cover for them in eternal darkness because y'all ain't going to be together. You be in your own pits. Why do I say that? That is dangerous. It's sin. It's not going to be called anything different because you're mom or your dad and this is your daughter or your son. If you allow your child to do sinful things and dishonest things and continue to do it, lying, cheating, getting over, taking advantage of people, disrespecting people, that is sin. The word of God says the greatest commandment is that you love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And the second that's greatest, that's like it, is that you must love your neighbor as yourself. That's the second greatest. That includes how they treat other people and their siblings. So it's not enough that you and them are like peas in a pod. If you are allowing them to do certain things that is wrong, you're aiding them in their sins, and you'll stand before God for that. So it does not matter if you're the one that's been faithfully, whether it's rain, sleet, snow, or thunderstorms, you're the one that's changing out the letters on that kiosk in front of the church. You know, that thing that lights up with the different announcements. Oh, church starts at this time, and the little cute little quotes and sayings. It don't matter if you have spent hours in the heat with that long stick changing out all the letters. You go home and you're doing wrong things and you're aiding and abetting your child, the baby of the family, in doing wrong. You'll see a long stick on the day of judgment saying, depart from me, changing them letters out, depart from me, or tell you to go change them letters out, spell out depart from me. And when you get done, go on and exit stage right. Now I add a touch of humor to it, guys, but this is a serious thing. Ministry begins at home. I can't tell you that. Ministry begins at home. It doesn't mean that you're always going to be polished and perfect and saying the right thing. But as a parent, as a child of God, you say you're a child of God, you must know when you've done wrong, when you've said something wrong. You must be sensitive to the needs of your children. And I'm finding out a lot of the older children, they're getting very angry, very angry. The firstborn they are being destroyed. That there's something about the firstborn child that the enemy wants to destroy. And now it's happening where it's happening in the house, because that the rest of the siblings are getting away with stuff, and there's a lot of undue stress and pressure that's being placed on this child, a lot of unfair things. At the same time, they're in this position as a parent. They have to cook and clean and take care of this person and that parent, this person and their little brothers and sisters, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and every second, every child, the child needs something, that their name is being called, but yet they can't. They have no protection. Be careful. This is a quick way for the enemy to get into the house, into the household. Regardless of their age, they must learn to be accountable. While they must get plenty of grace and mercy, they should not be brought up to feel entitled, to learn how to disrespect their siblings, to learn how to disrespect other people, to learn how to switch out their faces, to act nice to some people and not. This is not how God raises us. This is not how God has created us to be. The baby of the family or the omen of the family. The baby of the family or the Chucky of the family. The baby of the family or the Michael Myers of the family. Who are you raising? What will they be doing in the future? You can say that's my baby and it don't matter all you want. But that's not what other people are saying. The people who are truly experiencing this side to them. And most importantly, your child in the home, so frustrated. I adjure you to go into pray and to seek God about this. Don't go out there to your child. Are you frustrated? Do you feel mad? Are you upset with me? Your child's not going to answer that. They don't know how to do that. You have trained them throughout the years to not feel and to not express themselves. So if you come out in your muumuu dress and curls just array and whatever, and you're talking at them, they're not going to respond to you truthfully. And so I would encourage you to sit down and ask the Lord to show you how to do this. And if you're willing to, but how to really have this conversation. But if you're not willing to do it and you choose not to really research this situation and you just don't care, you will still stand before God to give an account, because what you neglect to do with your child, God is going to take care of that eldest child. He's going to help them. He's going to be there for them, because they're probably going to go through this phase of going astray and doing all these different things and being hurt. And he's going to have to help them. He's going to have to be mom and dad and everything that you're not. But while he's doing that, he is also going to have you answer to him for why you allow these things to happen to this soul. It's not going to be your son, or it's just your daughter. He's going to ask you about the soul, my created being. This person that I brought in your house, whose role in this walk was to start out being your daughter or your son. What did you do with what I gave you? What did you do with what I gave you to do? And that's a big thing. So guys, you have a wonderful rest of your day, and God bless.